Hello everyone. Welcome to another webinar conducted by Sumeru Solutions. We, being in the security space for almost a decade now, are extremely happy to share our experience and insights on various aspects related to security through our webinars. Similar to this, one of our topic today would be let's make it tough for the red team. So as all of us are aware that in today's evolving cyber threat landscape and the relentless hacking that takes place on regular basis, the need for very robust and resilient security program has actually become much more important than ever. So the need for most organizations, generally they deploy a red team in order to simulate the real-time world attacks and then detect the loopholes that are present in the organization. But the actual question is it really enough? What if you get a chance to deep dive inside the psyche and playbook of the red team in order to make the real world hackers' job really difficult? And exactly that is what we are going to cover in today's webinar. We would be discussing how the red team carries forward the targeted attacks and how the businesses can actually make the most out of the red team practices for a much more effective cybersecurity program. Now, without waiting any further ado, we will turn the time over to our presenter today, Mr. Shashank Dixit, who is the principal security consultant for Sumeru for years now. He has a total of 12 plus years of experience in the security domain, having a lot of expertise in areas like red teaming, penetration testing, application security, and DevSecOps. He has also been training professionals for over 1,000 plus on infrastructure and application security. And coming to the certifications, he holds an OSCP and CISSP. He has also been a volunteer in the expert panel in SciSec, which is a Karnataka government initiative. And he also is a guest faculty at technology colleges across India. Now, before Shashank takes over the session, I would just request you all to feel free to type your questions in the Q&A section present on the left side of the control panel anytime during the presentation, and Shashank will be addressing them towards the end. So Shashank, over to you.
Thank you, Snigdha, for the introduction. Happy to be here, and thank you all for joining today. Today's talk, I'll be mainly covering why we employ a red team and what is the whole path, what is the whole mindset what red team adopts, and what are the different tactics which red team is trying. And once we understand this whole process, it's easy for us to devise a proper plan to make the job of a red team tough. You know, I myself as a red teamer, I lead the team of red team experts, and it's really fun when the people at the other side who are defending everything are giving a tough time to us. So I'll be talking about how a proper defense strategy can be placed so that once you employ a red team, how you can make the most of it. So before we actually look into what red team and how to go about it, I want to have some basic things to be clear here. So as I know that most of you have some of the basic security hygiene already in place in your organization. When you say security hygiene, it means you have done your network segmentation properly. You have segregated your sensitive, non-sensitive network separately. You have antivirus solutions running on your endpoints. You have your firewalls. You have some proper policies in place like password policies. You're also conducting VAPTs. You have a periodic penetration testing program. At the same time, you have some phishing simulation where you are educating your employees with the time about security hazards and how careful they should be. So these are the basic security hygiene, which I mostly find everywhere where I meet CISOs or when I go to different organizations, some level of security is already in place. Yeah. And also I see that there is a proper security monitoring place. So you also have some security monitoring place if not a proper SOC running, at least some log monitoring solution or some event monitoring solution where you are getting some alerts over the time and you are able to figure it out if there's something wrong going on there. So that's very common nowadays. And as I said, there are some ways to train the employees, whether it's social engineering drills or sending some phishing emails, keeping them up to the date. But we all know that even after everything in place, there's something which is inevitable and which we cannot avoid is the attacks, it's the real world attacks. And if you go to your SIM device and you will just look into the logs, you will figure out there's so much of data, so much of traffic has been generated, which you might not be able to identify because these are the continuous attack which are happening over the internet or in your network. So security is a forever war, and we know that it's not a one-time thing. Once we do something, we need to develop on it again and again. So it's like a layer by layer approach where we need to have a basic security hygiene and then develop on top of it. And something which is very close to these kind of real world targeted attacks or internet based attacks is the red team activity. So if you want an experience where you want to challenge yourself and you want to open yourself to the world saying that, okay, come and try me, come and hack me, then red team is for you. Yeah. So it's very close to the real attacks, and that is why it is more fun. Yeah. So it's the exercise which is very rigorous in nature. It utilizes all the means to compromise your organization, whether it's through social engineering or to compromising the third parties, or it is to compromising your network perimeter, or maybe finding some sensitive data over the internet. So it's a multi-layered approach to target any organization uh, and showing that how hackers can do it. Yeah. Before I move further, I would like to ask one question for you. So how many of you have deployed red team earlier? So you have a poll coming up on your screen. You can just answer about it. You can take a few seconds. Perfect. So I can see there are 85% of the audience here who, okay, the results are still coming. So around 81% of the people here have not employed or deployed any red team yet. And remaining around, okay, the final results 16 and 83. So 83% have not deployed any red team so far, and 16% have the experience of having a red team in place. Perfect. So as we know about red team, it's a real world simulation, and it also has ability to uncover something really serious in your organization, whether it's related to technology, whether it's related to your people or the process. So it covers almost 360-degree view, and it also tests the resilience against the targeted attack. So how prepared are you if tomorrow some group of hackers are targeting you or targeting your organization? How prepared is your defense mechanism? Also, it justifies your investment. So if you have bought a SOC, you have bought a solution for your EDR, if you have some endpoints you have secured, then the red team is going to actually test it and give it a hard truth or the proper results to you, saying that how effective is it. So it's a very good way to justify your security investments in both ways. So if you want some security budgets to be approved, then I think you should deploy just a red team, get the results on board, and then you can just show it to your management to get the approval. So that's a very 360-degree way of dealing with what security investments you have done. Yeah, and it's also goal-oriented, multi-layered attack simulation. So before red team, it is important that you drill down to some really finer aspects of your organization, that what is sensitive, not sensitive, and you define the proper goal for the red team to achieve. Now, for example, if you want anybody from your management team, anybody's system to be compromised, then that could be one of the objective. Another objective could be to get inside your critical business application and dump some data, some sensitive data. Or another way could be to compromise your internal network and maybe reach to the Active Directory and dump some information. So these could be the objectives of the red team, and it's goal oriented, and to achieve those goals, red teamers are free to use any resources, any kind of ways to do it. Yeah, and we'll see how the whole process works. So the whole red team mindset is based on the different phases, starting from reconnaissance, scanning and enumeration, gaining access, lateral movement, escalating privileges, and exfiltration. Reconnaissance is the first phase, which is about knowing the target, knowing your organization, and then when we want to attack something, it's important to know them well, and that's the the reconnaissance terminology comes from the military, where they before attacking something, they just gather a lot of information, and that's all about reconnaissance. And then scanning enumeration is going further, and then scanning and finding what are the services, application ports are running, what are the IP addresses facing internet, and what can be attacked. And then after attacking, attackers basically gain access. Then they move from there to internal network to other systems and propagate internally. That is the lateral movement. And then once they compromise further, they also escalate their privileges in order to execute more, in order to gain more access, to dump more information. And then exfiltration is the last step, where mostly they achieve their goals and whatever has been defined as a part of objective. So exfiltration is basically collecting the data and then sending it back to the command and control, and then basically gaining all the information which is required. So in order to give a tough time to red team, it is important that we understand that these are the different steps, and each step is important. And if we break this step in between and then we set up a proper defense, then it's possible to make the red team's job really tough. So we'll take it one by one. So let's go to reconnaissance phase first. So reconnaissance, as I said, it's about gaining information. So there are multiple ways. You will be surprised to know that how much information has been put out there on internet about your organization. There are easy ways. You can just go and gather some credentials which are already being compromised. So employees credentials who are already there on dark web, or maybe some legacy URLs or parameters which are already available, like wayback URLs, uh, which can still be scanned. And if their classical vulnerabilities are already present, then that could be again compromised, because those legacy applications are already existing, or legacy APIs are there. Or the Google docking. So simple Google searches or different kind of search engines already index so much of data about organizations that a simple Google Doc search can actually handle a lot of data, mainly documents, sometimes username, passwords, APIs keys, and tons of information. And also, you would have heard of Shodan, where it's known as the internet search engine for the connected devices for the internet. And you will be surprised to know that once you go to Shodan, that how many servers are already being listed, which belongs to your IP ranges or organizations. And dark web is something which is open for everyone to go and search, very specific to any particular organization. It could be the dump of username passwords, it could be dump of credit card numbers or personal information. So it's all available openly, and it's all about how security hygiene you follow, how much you tighten your screws. So I'll come to the defense after this and show you how you can actually make sure that all these leakages can be avoided. And shadow inventory. So sometimes, we are not aware that what is our external surface. So we don't know what all IP addresses which are open, what are the different subdomains which are there, which are existing. There are DNS entries existing with you, but it's not been cleaned up, because of which you are opening another attack surface for the red team. So now, before I move to the defense, I would like to ask one more question to you. So a poll will come, and the question will ask you that: have you ever scanned yourself or your organization to know what is your external attack surface area? You can take a moment to answer. Okay, so yeah, results are still coming in. So 42% uh, people have said yes, 57 have said no. It's good to scan your external surface area because it's actually what hackers are going to see about your organization. So it's the eyes of the hacker. Yeah. And we have been Sumeru as a Sumeru team, we have been doing using this external surface a lot in our engagements, whether it's red team exercise or security assessments. And we also have a tool which is called threat meter, which runs through all this. It performs almost 100 checks, go to dark web, go to different forums like GitHub, Stack Overflows, and figure out what is the data which is being leaked about your organization. It's very effective, and you must scan your external surface area, because you will be surprised to know that how much data is already being there, which is handy for hackers. So to set up a proper defense for this, it's important that first to know what is the inventory which is open to internet. Yeah, because in our experience we have seen that the usual VAPT scope is sometimes lesser than what is open for a red team. It's a small subset of everything. Yeah, so it's important that you know what is the external attack surface area. And also because of the clouds, there are a lot of attack surface area which is open. For example, if your S3 buckets are open, there are misconfigurations, or you are leaking some API keys of your cloud in somewhere in the code repository, then again that could be. So important that you know what is there. Important to remove all that legacy applications which are not in use, all those APIs which are older, um, and also to important what your organization's data is being there on LinkedIn and social media. So important that you remove all those unused subdomains, legacy things, and also important thing is to monitor the dark web activities, because that's where once an organization is being hacked, all the data is going to be sitting there for everyone to use. So some sort of service which can monitor it for you is going to really give you a good defense. So moving from reconnaissance to scanning and enumeration, this is an active uh, active exercise where red teamers are going to touch your assets. They are going to scan it. There will be port scanning going on. They will enumerate the services which are open. They will be looking into some of the misconfigurations which are there. And if you have some missing patch, or there's new latest some CV which you are vulnerable to and you're not being patched, and definitely this is going to give an easy entry for the red teamers. So and this is the step where most of the compromises we get into, and we find some misconfigurations for sure. Somewhere your application's backend, maybe some JBoss server or Apache Tomcat server will be configured with the default password, and so in Sumeru we have found multiple engagements. This is the step where in our red team exercises it gives access to, because of uh, because of some misconfiguration or some missing patch. So this is a big area, but again, important that if you are thorough with your with SIM. So the defense for this, if you're thorough with your monitoring tools, like if you're feeding the logs of your devices which are on DMZ or connected to internet, then it's you must get an alert when somebody is scanning those devices. So the problem today, what I see when I interact with some of my CISO friends, that they have everything. They have all the devices in place. They have bought the SOC. They have bought different kind of security monitoring solutions, but there's no one who is basically canceling the noise and filtering out the relevant data from it. So it's important that first of all you include the things in your monitoring purview, and then you cancel the noise. So important that filtering all those important events out of that and then acting on that. And another important point I want to take here is about deception. So it's important that you use deception to the fullest. Deception is a very interesting way where you put some asset intentionally outside as a honeypot, and then since it's an easy target for red teamers, they are going to hit it, and as soon as they hit it, you will get an alert and then you can act on it. So you can use deception to actually make a really good defense there. Now, after doing the scanning part and enumeration, we usually go to the gaining access part, where we do a lot of password spraying. There are a lot of information available over the internet, where there are email IDs of your employees. We can figure it out, and as a red teamers, using those email IDs, we can try. list of tons of passwords which can easily give access to the accounts. And if there are cloud assets, then again we can try a different kind of S3 bucket enumerations and see what can be done there. If there are applications running on cloud assets, then we can try to dump some of the access key or secret keys of the cloud environment by using the vulnerabilities on those applications. And then nowadays, since everybody is working remotely, there are multiple VPN options being given to the employees. And the more number of VPN options are given, more attack surface areas available to us. So any of the VPNs we get, we are able to compromise. It gives a direct entry to internal network. And we also use a lot of social engineering, phishing and wishing to basically compromise. Again, it's not like a traditional one which people employ in their organizations where they conduct the drills, but it is more of an intelligent way of attacking the employees and sending a proper email which may look like genuine email but can give us a direct access. So these are the different ways we operate when we try to gain access. And it's important that to set up a proper defense against it, you must have some of the basic security things. I know that two-factor authentication is something which everybody employs nowadays, but what I'm saying here is even 99% is not enough. Even 1% of the two-factor authentication is not there, then it is very much possible that if I enumerate some of the users, I will go behind that 1% and try to compromise the assets there. So make sure you propagate this. You tell your employees that it is important to use strong password. Try to encourage the use of password managers. A 16-character password. Yeah, 16 characters sounds funny, but it's important. And make sure that your DMZ assets are also the part of your whole SOC monitoring. I have seen cases because in Sumeru, when we perform this assessments, I have seen cases where DMZ assets are being missed out from SOC monitoring. So uh, because the overall pricing increases and all those, so people try to adjust something in the SOC monitoring, and that's where the things go wrong. So it's important that you include your DMZ assets in SOC monitoring. And do not open any internal services directly to internet, which could be the management consoles, which are like internal applications or something which is connected to your Active Directory or internal network. So important that you just keep that access limited to through VPN access where employees are logging in, and good to keep your even email your mail access behind the VPN, and there's nothing wrong in it. It's again adding one more additional security layer. And also, if you are big time into the cloud environment, I highly recommend you to use a CASB solution that will optimize a lot of your threats there. And again, use deception. Try to create some honeypot accounts where if a attacker compromises that particular account, if a red teamer compromises, then you get an alert. And also use multi-layer of protection. So it's important that you have multiple layers of protection around it. For example, you have a host-based firewall, then you have network-based firewall, you have EDR solution, you have DLP solutions running. So multiple layers are important. Okay. Now, before I move further, I want you to answer one more question. Have you fine-tuned your SIM tools for canceling the noise? Yeah. So you have the pool in front of you. You can answer. Okay, so 20% of you say they have upgraded the SIM tools to cancel the noise. Very good. And around 80% people say that there's no cancellation of noise being deployed. Interesting to know. So once you move further, it's important that you also tell your employees there should be some innovative ways to actually tell them about the security to enhance the security awareness because they are the easy target for any red teamers. And cut down your multiple VPNs to limited options. Make sure you have SIM properly done so that if there are concurrent logins happens to some account, you should get an alert. And use honeypots or the fake VPNs, which if compromised, you will get to know about it. So also the password reset, because this is something which is easily being exploitable by red teamers, where we just call the employees and tell them to reset the passwords. Easy targets. So if you have documented approach, well communicated to employees about password reset, you can avoid that kind of scenarios. And also reduce the number of softwares which are being deployed in your network, because more the number of softwares, it's more number of vulnerabilities over the time, and another available attack surface for us. So after we compromise something, we gain access, we move further, we basically do a lateral movement from endpoints. We figured out that the share folders are something which is always a gold mine for red teamers, because that's where a lot of people share a lot of information. It's more of a in Excel sheets or in PDFs. So share folders are something which is being done. Everybody is aware about it. People are using it just because it's easy to use, but for red teaming, it's a very so important that you fine tune all those things. Uh, and also the privilege escalations happen, whether it's operating system level, application level. So to set up a proper defense, make sure you have proper policies in place, especially the service accounts which are existing in an environment, because these are the accounts that have maximum privileges available. And once any kind of compromise happen there, then it's easy to get into the AD and dump the data and get the password hashes. Also, make sure you have proper group preference policy. Make sure you follow the recommendation given by Microsoft. Um, Also have strong password, because once we gain access as a red teamer, we try to dump the hashes, and then the whole process goes to crack those hashes. So if it is a strong password, then it becomes difficult. Also, make sure you fine tune your local shares. If people are using Dropbox or any other third party file sharing, make sure it has been under your purview, where you know things are happening and how you can basically fine tune that. Another way is you can also put some dummy documents called, you can Google about it, Scannery tokens, where if these documents are being taken away or maybe opened, then you get an alert. So it's another way of creating some sort of honey traps or honey pots, where you are basically letting people to open that, and then you will know that there's something wrong is going on. So these are some of the defenses you can adopt against it. And to basically uh, prevent escalation of privileges, make sure you have multiple layer of protection, because as a red teamer, it's difficult to basically bypass all the layers. Sometimes EDR you may be able to bypass them, but again there is a DLP solution running there, or maybe UABA has been employed, and then there is a net flow which is being monitoring the network. So if there are multiple layers of security being there, then it becomes difficult to bypass each and everything. I'm not saying it's not bypassable. At the same time, the job becomes tough. So make sure you have different layers of security there. And then make sure you have disabled SMB signatures, LSASS has been disabled, and then there are reduced number of softwares in place. You have your host-based firewall enabled. Yeah, it's a very basic thing, but I know from the experience that people are not enabling that. And make sure that right kind of events are being logged there, whether it's command line events or if PowerShell events. So all this leads to a proper defense mechanism in place. And then people actually don't know what kind of events has to be logged. So it is important that you log the right kind of events. Make sure you're logging the Windows events properly. Having command line logging is happening. And then through group policies, you can actually fine tune the usage of PowerShell, because PowerShell is something being used extensively when any compromise happens, and then red teamers are basically trying to escalate the privileges and then move further as a lateral movement. So you can actually execute, put a proper policy in place from a group policy to have restrict the usage of PowerShells. And then you can also do the sysmon logging. Basically, it's being connected to all your Windows event login and make sure that you're getting the right logs. So to summarize all this, I have basically collated in 5 different takeaways for you, because It's more of a technical thing, but I'll just make it easier for you now. So make sure you invest in your basic security hygiene. And it's very important that at least you should have a basic layer of security where you are following the basic principles, like you have proper network segmentation, then you have at least some sort of endpoint security in place. Then at the network layer, you have some sort of firewall in place. Then definitely some sort of monitoring where you are able to get. So all these are basic security hygiene. You have usual VAPT, periodic VAPT going on, because that will going to bring out a lot of these day-to-day security issues which are going to crop up over the time, whether it's patches missing or some misconfiguration. So we in Sumeru, we encourage a lot for the customers, because we know there are some challenges about the budgets, or there are some challenges about the timelines, or there's some challenges about the skills available. So we at least try to tell our customers that it's important that you invest in basic security hygiene. Also, you monitor the external attack surface. So as I mentioned earlier, also this is the very easy available target for hackers to go scan your external attack surface and then gain all this sensitive data and just run it against you and gain access. So important that you employ some sort of service which are doing this for you. So there are fantastic things available in Sumeru. We are using our in-house built product called Threat Meter to do this, where we are helping a lot of customers today to scan this external attack surface area and then showing them, uh, giving them real value where there are changes happening in real time, and then they are getting alerts saying that, oh, something has been leaked on GitHub or something has been leaked on dark web. So that's very important that you invest on this external surface attack monitoring, because this is something being picked up by the hackers again and again. And then important that you employ such some kind of red teaming exercises for you. You include that in your budgeting part, because it really adds a lot of value. Because I've seen organizations which are running this traditional security, have security hygiene in place, but when they go for a red team, that's when they are actually exposed. That's when they really face this hard truth, where they know that this a lot of which has not been covered in our pen test, and there's a lot of which is open and easily available for people. So important that you have something, you have your teams, red teams in place to simulate this real world attacks. Yeah. And then for your SOC monitoring, make sure that you include uh, your DMZ, your critical environment in your SOC monitoring, and then cancel the noise. Make sure you filter the right kind of results. And in a year, it's important that you include some sort of threat hunting exercise as well, because that is what going to actually test your resilience against this kind of attacks, where your SOC monitoring is going to be challenged. So threat hunting is a rigorous exercise which basically tests all your resilience. What kind of defense have you put with your SOC environment, and is that possible for any malware to basically infect all the systems, or exfiltrate any data? So these are very targeted exercise, but there's a lot of insights being generated through these exercises, which is going to fine tune what is already there with you. And important to take action and remediate the open issue, because in my experience of last 12 years, I've seen that the problem is it's not about throwing some vulnerabilities and showcasing there are some open windows where attackers can get inside. It's the problem today faced by a lot of CISOs, that how can I take it to the closer? How can I remediate it? I don't have a proper skill set in place. I don't have my team, or the IT teams are not cooperating. There are a lot of pain points which I come across when I speak to my CISO friends. So it's important that to take it to the closure, and have your right vendors in place, have your right teams in place to take necessary actions and remediate the open issues. That's where the real value, that's where the real security happens, when you try to close the issues and make sure that you have good defense in place. So these are the 5 points which I wanted to give you today before uh, we take it further. So, so far, I would like to now take any questions. Hope things are very clear so far. So, any questions, Snigdha? If you want, you can read. I can answer now. So I think Snigdha, you are on mute. You need to unmute yourself. I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Shashank?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for that insights and in-depth about how to make it tough for the red team. It has been very fruitful for all of us and the organizations in this situation. And coming to the questions, we have quite a few questions. So let us start off with what is automated red team?
Yeah, so now since the red team is picking up a lot in nowadays in the industry, and organizations are looking forward to have a continuous red team going on for their organizations. So that's where this concept of automated red team is in place, where some part of red teaming can be automated. I'm not saying it can be 100% automated, because that's a pure lie. If somebody is saying they can automate the whole red team exercise, it's not possible. But many of it parts can be automated, like the external threat attack surface monitoring, that can be automated. And then there could be monitoring system on your external network, and then the same thing can be done internally. So there are multiple attack surfaces, or the attack vectors, which can be automated in that place. And then at least once it is done, you will be getting the alerts continuously, and then you will be able to tackle this kind of threats very quickly in that way. So there are some solutions available, and we are also trying to automate a lot of parts of our team exercises. So yeah, that's something which organizations can actually look forward for.
And okay, and we've got the next question. It is what is the periodicity of the red team that we should conduct?
Yeah. So I always recommend to our clients that it should be an ongoing exercise. It should be done for the whole year, but at the same time, I tell them that every month we do some sort of activity. So it's being divided over the year. At the same time, we do it for limited period of time. So for example, if I do a red team exercise of 60 days in a year, so then I'll make sure that the red team goes behind the organization at least 10 days or 5 days in a month, so that there are continuous evaluation happening continuous. And since the red team built on something which they do uh, step by step, so if they compromise one thing, and then in the next step they can actually go deeper and explore further things, and then try to compromise more points. And so it's a ongoing activity. At the same time, since in a year there's a lot of changes happen in the whole infrastructure, then it makes sense that you deploy the red team for the whole year. So yeah, that's how the red team model usually goes. So we usually recommend at least 60 days, or if not, at least 45 to 50 days of red team in a year, which is spread across the year.
Great. Okay, and the next one that we have here is, can my in-house security team get trained to perform red team? If
Yeah.
yes, how effective will that be?
So this is something which the question which I come across when I interact with a lot of CISOs. So yeah, there's some level of red teaming exercises which can be reached by training the individuals which are already there, but it takes a lot of experience and a lot of lot of skill there to actually execute a proper red team engagement. And yeah, it take a lot of years of experience, I would say. Yeah, you can train your teams, they can execute some sort of your cases, some sort of objectives they can achieve. But if you want to actually uh, face the real picture, it's important to deploy a third party for it. And then it is going to be more effective, and there's much more value add in that. But at the same time, I'm not discouraging anyone to have their own internal red teams. Yeah, that's very much encouraged. But have a third party check, because that maker checker should be different. So I am for basically supporting a third party check for that.
Okay. And the next question that we have is, are you performing an attack and breach simulation as well?
Yes. So we are doing this actively nowadays. So we are doing this where we are doing some hypothesis-based attack simulations in client environment, and the results are amazing when people see that they have a very strong SOC in place and a strong SOC team in place, but still there are things uncovered in their environment where there are some command and control found and there are some malware found. So there are fantastic results, and we have been doing this actively where we are uncovering a lot of things in customer environment. So we are doing this simulations, breach simulations, and threat hunting is one of our such offering where we are really going deep in customer environment to uncover this kind of issues. So yeah, we are doing it very actively.
Okay. And the next question that we have is, what is Sumeru's specialty on Red Team, and how are we different from the other service providers?
So Sumeru has a strong experience of more than almost 2 decades now in security industry, and we have seen how the security industry has been matured from traditional security, what we say VAPT today, to the level of red team and breach simulation and all the advanced stuff what the industry is standing today. And carrying that experience, strong experience of working with multiple organizations across multiple domains, across multiple geographies, we have this strong experience in about the environments where people are operating. We know what are the different kind of uh, what vulnerabilities being there, where are the red teamers will go, what is the open window for hackers which are open, and that's where. So there's a lot of success we have found in executing these red team exercises against our clients. So we come from a very strong security background. At the same time, there's a strong team behind that, which is very experienced team. And yeah, so the whole experience of red team is different with Sumeru because there's a very strong experience behind it.
Okay. And I think we have two more. And yeah, the next one is what you cover in the cloud security testing.
Yes, so we have a webinar. We had a webinar very recently about cloud security. I think it must be in our archives in our YouTube channel. I would recommend you to please go through our channel. You can always watch that webinar, and we have covered all this in details there. But to give a short thing, I'll tell you that we have been doing this cloud security reviews for multiple organizations today, whether they are doesn't it doesn't depend on which vendor they are into, whether it's AWS or Azure or GCP. We have been doing this cloud security review for them. So that's a very exhaustive review. We uncover so many things there. We look into what are the kind of services has been used there, what is the kind of access controls, or what is the kind of logging monitoring. So the multiple parameters we cover in those kind of reviews, and there are a lot of eye-opening results which has been found there. So yeah, I would recommend you can watch the previous seminar on cloud security, and yeah, cloud security reviews is a good choice.
Great. And we have one more. Okay, so does Sumeru have an external threat attack surface monitoring tool, and how will that help the red team?
Yes. So as I was talking initially, I spoke a lot about reconnaissance part, where the external attack surface is something which is very easily available for attackers. And in Sumeru, out of our experience of many years, we came across the multiple things which we can automate, and this is our totally in-house built solution, which is finding out this external attack surface. So it runs through different forums. It goes to dark web. It goes to different uh, the external services which are available, and it's totally open source intelligence gathering. So it doesn't touch your IP addresses much. It doesn't touch your applications, but it figures out so much of data which is available outside, whether it's in dark web or whether it's in GitHub or Stack Overflows or any kind of, or if any employee's data has been compromised, or if you have some mobile apps, are there any rogue mobile apps which are running? So it runs almost 100 plus checks today. It goes to different multiple forums, find out is there any fake mobile app, any kind of credential leakage has happened, or is there any data which is lying over dark web for easily download. or is there any port which is open on your IP addresses and throwing some information which should not be there. So we map end-to-end external attack surface through our threat meter tool, and it has given really good results to our customers. So there are customers who have deployed that tool for a continuous monitoring basis where they are getting regular alerts. So if anything new comes in dark web or anything new commit happens over the GitHub with any sensitive data, they immediately get a alert. So yeah, that's an in-house built tool, and yeah, it's good to have it in your kitty.
That's great. And yeah, so the next question is, what about API security and application security assessment? What are the tools that we basically use?
Yes. So API security and application security is one of the major things which we are doing it for the customers today. And as you know that the application security paradigm has been changed over the years. Now today everything is not as simple as a LAMP environment. It's a lot of layers which are there. So with APIs coming in picture, whether it's GraphQL or REST API, there is a lot of the behind mechanism which are being working, whether it's microservices or so there's a whole assembly which comes with your API implementation, and all this has some or the other way where attacker can basically play with it and find those vulnerabilities. So we have a very rigorous defined methodology to test those APIs today, and there are multiple checks which we perform there, and the team who works on it have a fair amount of experience in application security and API security. They are good team of bug hunters, and they're really good in their job. So yeah, so definitely it's a important exercise we are doing a lot nowadays for almost all of our customers. And yeah, it's important to get your APIs and applications tested before you actually push it to the production. So important that you include that as a part of your maybe a development life cycle, or if not, at least do a sort of a security test before you push it to production. Or if it is already in the production, make sure to do a proper API security pen test on it. So that's what we are doing.
Fair enough. I think we've done with all the questions that we have. We do not have any other questions coming up.
So
Okay.
so over to you, Snigdha, now. So thank you everyone for joining. I think over to Snigdha to sum it up.
Right. So thank you so much, Shashank. I think there's a lot of insights that you've given about how important is Red Team and what are the tactics, various dynamics that are involved in it, and how important is it for organizations and businesses to have that in place. So thank you so much for that. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking time out and being a part of this session. So this is just one of them. There'll be more coming up. And so finally, Sumeru, we've been in the security industry for 20 years now, and we've been helping a lot of businesses across various industries to help them prevent the breaches, help them with the attacks, and then protect their private and sensitive data with a very robust and very up-to-date security solutions that we have. And so as a takeaway, we actually have giving a recording session for all the participants, and also we have a threat meter for one domain for every organization that has been attended, as well as we'll be giving a 30-minute free security advisory consulting as well. So apart from this, we've actually keeping this current pandemic in mind, and we've actually every other day we're coming up with new solutions that we can help the organizations level up the game in various sectors. Like if you can see from the basic VAPT security hygiene to the threat meter that we've developed very recently for the attacks, and then we have DevSecOps, we have threat hunting, and there are a lot of aspects within these. So for more information, you can always check out our LinkedIn information security LinkedIn page, wherein we keep posting all the latest services, latest trends, and all of that coming up. And you can definitely give in your feedback, which is very important for us to apply all of them and make sure, we come up with much better webinar the next time with the concept that we have. So thank you all so much for taking your time out.
Thank you, everyone.